MMA Now, powered by Film On TV Network.
I'm David Kennel with Film On TV's MMA Now, and right now I'm joined with MMA Now correspondent Brian Shepard. How you been, Brian?
Good, thanks. And you?
I've been doing pretty well. And the first off the bat, I know we're going to talk UFC 198 predictions, and this is a prediction show for right now, but we got to go into some Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor. There's been a huge diatribe in what's supposed to happen between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. Dana White killed the story. He said it's not going to happen. It's impossible. He even used the words, "There's no chance in hell," unquote. Now Floyd Mayweather is telling Showtime Sports that it's not a rumor, that it might happen, and then he tells Showtime that it's going to happen. What are you to make about Mayweather's new comments?
Well, I mean, look at us right now. What are we doing? We're on the eve of UFC 198, and we're leading a prediction show about Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. So he's just trying to stay relevant. He's doing a really good job. I tend to agree with Dana White. I don't think it's going to happen either. But why not get the buzz going and keep his name circulating in social media and on TV and so forth?
Yeah, but if you think about it, it could happen. I'm saying from a co-promotion point of view, the UFC is a promotion. If they did a co-promotion with the Money Team, with Mayweather Promotions, where they put on a main event fight that's boxing, they could even put it in an octagon. They could put it in a ring.
That's a good point.
And they split the revenue between it. I mean, the last fight between Pacquiao and Mayweather, the pay-per-view was like 4.4 million pay-per-view buys. They both made over 300 million put together.
Right.
Can you imagine Mayweather and McGregor? Mayweather for sure would take in his 9-digit earnings, which he says he's not fighting for anything less than that. And McGregor would definitely take in, he might be the first person in MMA not only to do 8 figures, but go into that $100 million range on one fight.
Right, because they would get all the boxing fans, all the MMA fans, and all the ones that have crossed over, and then they're still with both. So it would be huge. It'd be huge.
Is it going to happen?
I don't think so. But I agree with what you're saying on like the fact of putting it in the octagon. That would be a nice touch.
It's fun just talking about it. The only last thing I'll end with, I talked with Randy Couture's manager in the past who said that the Ali Act could come into play, not in the McGregor situation, but if a UFC, any MMA fighter wasn't happy with their contract, what they could do is, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing from our conversation last year, they can go file for a boxing license, say in New York, it's a really a pro boxing state, and use the Ali Act to which kind of states that a promotion is not being fair. They're holding them within a contract, and you're not allowed to do that within the Ali Act. It's kind of interesting. No one's actually tested it out in MMA, but that's what he was saying, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if anyone would challenge that, but and I don't think now. Let me say, I don't think McGregor's going to be the first one to do that. If it happens, I think it'd be a co-promotion.
Well, that's an interesting point you bring up. He's already kind of gone outside the norm with his refusal to promote UFC 200, got taken off the card. So I don't know that I wouldn't put it past him doing something like that. I mean, I don't think he would either, but it is on the table.
Yeah, but I think that would definitely take money out of his pocket in the sense of there's going to be a legal battle that would ensue, and I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't.
And besides, Dana White says him and Conor have been talking every day. They're going to have dinner next week, and 2 weeks from now, this is going to be a moot point.
Right.
Then. Anyway, it's still fun to think about.
Yeah.
And Mayweather is a master promoter.
He is, for sure.
UFC 198. This is going to go down, I predict, as the best mixed martial arts card in Brazilian history. It's a blown up card. I wanted to use blown up instead of stacked, but it really is. It's a big card. You got Jacare on there. You got Stipe Miocic, Fabricio Verdun, Vitor Belfort, the debut of Chris Cyborg, and really let's start out with Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. That would have just been kind of like the cherry on top. However, Anderson Silva, we learned that he's out. He had his gallbladder successfully removed. And why do you think someone would have their gallbladder removed?
Well, you don't need it, and if it's causing you problems, then they tend to get it out pretty quick.
Now, you did 20 years in the Air Force. You've been on the battlefield. Has that ever been a situation where someone's had to have their gallbladder removed?
Well, I've never been on the battlefield per se. I've been in some areas where it might have gotten a little sketchy at times, but no, I've never been in a scene where you had to any. I've never been in a scene where someone was any kind of gallbladder issues, whether deployed or at home.
And it was weird was that Dana White was saying that Anderson Silva was okay, that the embedded team was with him, he was striking great, and then he just got sick. And next thing you know, he's out of there and getting his gallbladder removed. A fight against Uriah Hall, which I was really looking forward to. You had Uriah Hall, who they kind of dubbed the next Anderson Silva. He really didn't step into those shoes, but it still would have been a fun fight. And what would have happened if Silva and Hall would have got it on? What's your prediction?
Well, I had him winning the fight. I think coming off of the Bisping fight, he kind of had something to prove. I don't think it was a controversial decision, but I think he would have found a way to pull that fight out.
How do you think he would have beaten Uriah Hall?
How does he beat everybody? I think he would have been by TKO or knockout. But we'll have to wait for next time.
Who knows if they're going to fight or not? I don't think they're going to fight. Anderson Silva's going to have not surgery. He's going to be able to train in 4 to 6 weeks again.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to find Hall. They weren't able to find him a replacement, but they might just stick him on a card coming up. Let's get into the main event. Fabricio Werdum versus Stipe Miocic in a fight that was going to happen. First, it was supposed to be Werdum versus Velasquez.
Right.
Then it was Miocic and Werdum pulled out, and now we have it. Stipe is going into enemy territory for him and taking on Werdum in front of 45,000 people.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight.
Miocic has never seen anything like this in his life. Do you think that's going to mess with his psyche?
I don't think so. This guy's been an athlete his whole life. He's been competing at high levels, whether it be wrestling, baseball, Golden Glove boxing. Obviously, nothing on the scale of what he's going to see tomorrow night. But yeah, I think he's ready.
So Werdum, obviously, experience, huge factor.
Yeah. And
Werdum has really put on a stand-up game. I mean, before his bread and butter was going to the ground and tapping people out. But now I think he's really improved, well-rounded. His Muay Thai down there at King's MMA with Rafael Cordero. I'm not sure where this fight is going to start in the beginning, but what are you predicting that's going to happen?
Well, I think Werdum, his striking stand-up's gotten a lot better, like you said. He's not going to be afraid to kick because he's not going to be worried about being taken down. I don't think Miocic is going to go anywhere near that. But on the other hand, I think Miocic is going to also keep it standing. I think he'll successfully defend takedowns from Werdum. And I have Miocic pulling out the upset victory.
Really? And how do you think Miocic is going to win the fight?
Well, I think either if Miocic doesn't win, it's going to be by TKO or KO, but I think he's going to win by knockout or TKO.
And it's one of those fights where Miocic has a live dog into the fight. He does have a shot. He looked good against Junior Dos Santos in a fight that could have really gone either way. He took out Mark Hunt. And I think Stipe, he also took out Andrei Arlovsky pretty quickly. And I think he's gotten better. But Werdum is a different beast. He's a world-class on the ground, world-class jiu-jitsu. And due to his stand-up, I think that's going to help him with a takedown and eventually get the fight to the ground and be able to tap out Stipe Miocic. I think it's going to be a great fight. This might be runner-up for fight of the night for me.
This is my fight of the night. I just think there's a lot of pressure on him. He's done a great job to this point, but he's got to go in and defend the belt. Like Mighty Mouse said many times when he fought a few weeks ago, it's one thing to win it, it's another thing to defend it. And I just think he's going to have a tough time, his hands full with Miocic.
Renato Jacare Souza versus Vitor Belfort in the co-main event. You got Jacare, who's not a young chicken by any means, but in terms of MMA life, even though he's only 3 years younger than Vitor, he hasn't taken that wear and tear that Vitor's taken. Do you think that this is the fight where Vitor just goes all out and really tries to take out Jacare, or is this something where you think Vitor will take his time and test Jacare first on the feet?
Well, oh yeah, for sure he's going to try to do it on the feet. I just think he's not going to be able to take his time as much as he may want to. I think he's going to be defending off a lot of pressure from Souza, and I don't think in the end I think Souza's going to control him for most of the fight, and I have him coming out with a submission victory.
You have Jacare coming out with a submission victory.
Correct.
This is a fight where Brazilians, I don't know, it's kind of weird because Brazilians love to see their fighters fight a foreigner or someone else and root for them. But this is both our fan favorites for the Brazilians. Who are they going to be rooting for? What energy is going to be put into which fighter? We're going to have to see tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they're going to cheer the loudest for who brings it the most, I think.
Matt Brown, the Immortal versus Damian Maia, which this easily could have been a co-main event fight on this card. Matt Brown always comes to bring it, whether he wins or loses. You know what you're getting with Matt Brown. Damian Maia, sometimes you get a different Damian Maia. You get one that does well on his feet, and obviously we know his world-class ground game.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, you get the Damian Maia that can be kind of lax and maybe his engine doesn't go as far as it should have gone. What do you think is going to happen in his home country of Brazil?
Well, during media day, he actually mentioned that it was hard to avoid distractions when he's fighting at home. In the U.S., all he has to do is worry about fighting. His friends or family, they're not there. He doesn't have to worry about that. So I actually think there's a lot of pressure on him to perform well, and I think he's not one-dimensional, but he only does one thing really, really well, and that's his ground game. So I think with Matt Brown being a little more versatile, I think that he's going to put a lot of pressure on him. He came out in the weigh-ins and had his little gesture, and I think that was awesome. It does nothing but make it more exciting. We have plenty of guys shaking hands and hugging, but what he did to the fans of Brazil is gonna make it even more interesting tomorrow night.
But do you think what Matt Brown did was? Do you think it was a good gesture what he did?
Well, I don't know how good or respectful it was, but I think it makes it more interesting. It provides a little more gamesmanship, and I think in the end, all the animosity he's going to feel tomorrow night is going to do nothing but fuel him for that fight.
But you just said you thought there was a lack of respect there. That pulls away from the gamesmanship, though.
Gamesmanship meaning just making it more exciting, more interesting, and just adding a little bit of a twist that wasn't there before.
I think there's a bit of a double standard if you're saying that there was no gamesmanship there, because what do you say about Conor McGregor, who gives Dustin Poirier the finger, or Nate Diaz, who does it to McGregor, or Nick that does it to whoever he's fighting?
Yeah. I don't know what you're saying, dude. Like, it's gamesmanship.
Gamesmanship, but you're saying is it a lack of respect for them to do that as well?
No, I mean, I think gamesmanship is just chippiness. It's coming in with a little bit of an attitude. In this case, he took it a little bit further. Right or wrong, I really don't have an opinion on whether it's right or wrong or not. I like it, so I guess I do have an opinion. So I think it's a good thing, because I just think it makes it more fun for us.
Damian Maia, I'm going to disagree with you there. Damian Maia, I think he is good on his feet. It's just when he goes against someone that's a better striker, it can be seen. And I think he really goes to the straight jiu-jitsu once it's on the ground. I don't think that he's not by any means. He can hold his own on the feet. That's just where he'd rather be. Now, Matt Brown's just a different. He's a real fighter. And I know I've used that term before. Everyone's a real fighter. But there's a difference between a real fighter and someone that goes in there and lays it all on the line. Matt Brown yesterday said that he's willing to die inside the octagon, die inside the cage, and he'd rather do that than die in a drunk driving accident or die in the hospital. And when Matt Brown says it, I really believe him. I believe
him too, yeah.
That he would die in that cage fighting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick Matt Brown, even though he's an underdog, and I'm going to take Matt Brown, and I'm going to do a bit of a throwback to Damian Maia and Rory McDonald. Maia won first round against Rory, and then rounds 2 and 3, McDonald came back with a flurry. Damian Maia wasn't able to hold him down, and Rory was able to kind of beat him up on the feet.
Yeah.
Whereas Matt Brown is a better version of Rory McDonald there than he is right now. I think he's going to finish the fight.
You think Brown will finish?
Matt Brown is going to finish Damian Maia. I don't know what round, but I think he's going to get it done.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I have him coming out with some TKO or KO.
Shogun Rua, the return of Shogun to Brazil against Corey Anderson. Shogun, now I've tweeted this in the past that I think he should have retired 3 or 4 fights ago. There's no need for him to keep on going. He's a legend, Pride Grand Prix champion, UFC star. Why UFC champion as well, light heavyweight champion when he beat Lyoto Machida. Why put himself and his future? Why risk it? Why risk brain injury to a possible knockout?
Well, fighters fight. You know, that's what they do. So I commend him for hanging in there and continuing to put on good fights for us. But I tend to agree with you that it's. I think this one's going to be the one that might be the last one. I think Anderson's going to pull this one out. I do think it'll be a good fight though, because they both have a lot to fight for. Shogun, he won his last fight, but the 5 before that, he lost 4 or 5 of those, or he lost 4 out of 5 of those. Anderson's young up and comer, has only got 1 loss, so I really think he wants this to be a statement fight for him to kind of propel him to possibly to a next level. So it's going to be a good fight, but I see Anderson finishing him.
I think again one of those fights where, again Shogun, I don't want to see him get hurt, and hopefully, if he loses this fight by TK or KO, which I think Corey's going to put a beating on him, that he really thinks about his health and retires. I mean, we don't want to see any fighter get hurt.
Right.
We don't want to see any fighter get permanent damage from their careers. So, and he could do a lot of other things. I mean, he's a star in his home country. He's even a star over here. Also on the card, the much-anticipated debut of Chris Cyborg. People have been calling for Cyborg to be in the UFC for years now, but it's just what weight division? She's a 145 champion in Invicta, and yet she can't make 135 for the UFC, which the UFC has obviously the strawweight, the 115ers, and then 135. But catch weight versus Leslie Smith, who's a very game, very confident fighter, coming out of Cesar Gracie's camp, Northern California. However, I don't think Leslie Smith is going to be the one to do it, the one to get it done. And she said, she put it on paper that I'm going to be known as a woman that destroyed Cyborg. And I'm not so sure she should have said that.
Yeah, I don't know if it matters what she said. I think Cyborg was going to punch her just as hard regardless. But I mean, I commend her confidence, and obviously we were grateful that she came out and took the fight. She's apparently the only one who wanted to have anything to do with Cyborg. So I mean, it's a little bit of a lackluster feeling for me personally. I just think that everyone's waited so long to see her in the UFC, and this is the only way that this is the only fighter she gets paired with. But like you said, no one else wants to fight her. So it's gonna be fun to watch. But we wish Smith well.
Well, I mean, I wish everyone well, Cyborg and Leslie Smith. But the thing about it is, Miesha Tate wouldn't take the fight, even though I've heard that she said she would. This is per Cyborg. Holly Holm wouldn't take the fight. Ronda Rousey didn't want to take the fight unless it was at 135. And you can't disagree with them. If she doesn't can't make 135, why risk it? Why take yourself out of title contention? Why cost yourself possibly millions of dollars by losing to Cyborg in a fight that's not even within the same division? So I think even though Leslie Smith is very game, I think Cyborg will finish the fight, and she has she's grateful to be fighting in her home country, in Brazil, and I really think that due to Leslie Smith's background, I want to say that she has a shot. I mean, everyone has a shot in a fight. But this is one of those ones where I think she's going to fight with pure heart. And big kudos to Leslie Smith for taking the fight.
Well, you mentioned a while back a fighter who's not in the top 100 shouldn't be fighting someone in the top, I think it was the top 5 or the top 10. she could go in there and get hurt. You know, I don't know if she's not anywhere on nearly on the level as Cyborg. So I mean, I just hope that, you know, that she's okay when this is done.
That'll do it for today. Those are our predictions for UFC 198. And I'm sure everyone will be tuned in to see what I say will be the biggest card in Brazilian mixed martial arts history up to this point in time. Well, for Film On TV Network and MMA Now, I'm David Cano, and that's Brian Shepard. We'll see you again soon. And make sure you follow our Twitter at MMA Now TV to get caught up on who's winning the fights and updates and more.
MMA Now, powered by Film On TV.